So one of the major parts of investing is handling your money and knowing how to systemize it so that you consistently grow and so you consistently build your portfolio. Does that make sense? Yeah, because one of the most important parts is if you don't handle your money, if you don't consistently reinvest and use it, you won't be able to build your portfolio. And the person who really taught me a great system is T. Harv Eker. I don't know if you've heard of T. Harv, but he does the event Millionaire Mind Intensive. If you haven't been to it, you really should go. It's such a powerful event. So if you see a chance to go to Millionaire Mind, or MMI as it's called, definitely take the chance. If you have, I think you'd agree, right? It's an amazing, amazing event. It's so powerful. One of the greatest lessons in the event for me was when they started talking about how to, handle their finances and how to handle the money. And I actually have spoken on T. Harv Eker's behalf. I don't know if any of you have seen when I've done that, but I've actually spoken at some of his events, which was really, really cool. And what I learned from going to the events and speaking was something called the JAR system. So I don't know if you've heard of the JAR system. But the JAR system it's such a powerful way of just handling your finance. So basically, he says whenever you make money, so when you get salary, you should divide that money into certain jars. This is how you keep an eye on it. You can use different bank accounts or whatever. But essentially, he says you should be able to live off of 55% of your salary. Now, I know that's not possible for everyone. You're in the situation you are. But what you want to do is cover your base expenses, your house, your food, your bills, by 55% of your salary. The rest is split into these other jars. So let me share what they are. And this is really cool. I mean, this is really, really valuable, because what happened to me was when I started handling my finance in this way, all of a sudden I had more control. I had more insight into my finances, and I had a better idea for what I could do in order to grow my portfolio. All of a sudden I was saving every month, and it was a very powerful system to consistently grow and build my portfolio. So I want to share this because it's powerful, so I hope that's okay. So what happens is you got 55% are covering your base expenses. You then take the next 10% and you put to what he calls long-term saving for spending. So what's long-term saving for spending? Well, long-term saving for spending is essentially if you got to do repairs on your house, or if you're going to travel. It's not money you invest, it's not money, you have like a project. So like every year you might want to go on a vacation. I'm guessing most people do this, right? Yeah. So you put away money during the year. 10% of your salary goes to those kind of things. Next, so that's 10%. So 55% base expenses, 10% for your annual trips or fixings or stuff like that. Your next 10% is education. Essentially, consistently continue to grow your portfolio, or your personal knowledge. So that can be going to events, buying courses, buying books, anything you do to grow yourself as a person. Now, when I heard this, and it was T. Harv Eker saying it, I'm like, yeah, well, of course you say it, because you're then going to sell me a course. So, of course, you want me to buy courses with my money, right? That makes sense. But as I've grown, and I've actually followed that system, and it does make a huge difference. I try to actually spend more today than 10% because of the difference it makes. But what happens is if you put that away, usually what happens when you start putting money away to the side is it doesn't really change your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is pretty consistent anyway. I mean, yeah, you might not buy the Tropicana juice. You might buy, oranges and you squeeze them yourself, which is tastier anyway. But you save money by doing more yourself, or instead of eating out or buying food home, you cook it and it's more healthy and it's tastier anyway. But you save a lot of money. So, your lifestyle choices it isn't that a big a difference in your lifestyle when you start putting money to the side. But over time, it makes a huge difference. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because that's what happened to us, is we started putting away that money. We started investing in ourselves, and we started to grow. And it made a huge impact on our lives. Next, the next part, so that's 10% on education, 10% long-term saving for spending, 55% on your on your base expenses. So that's 75% in total. The next 10% you should be going to play. And what is play? Well, play is about spoiling yourself a little bit. It's about taking care of yourself and growing as a person. So, because one of the things I noticed that entrepreneurs have, and I have a huge problem with this, I mean, me and Gisela, at a time, we were doing so many property deals that we were closing on deals all the time, and we never sat down to celebrate them. And there's so much we can celebrate, right? The first time you say yes to a deal, the first time you complete on a deal, when the refurb is done, when the tenants move in, when you get your first rental payment, when you get your second rental payment, when you do the refinance. You should be celebrating all these milestones on each goal. And me and Giselle, we were actually pretty bad at this. We would kind of move through it, and we would never stop and realize what we were creating and what we were doing. And when you do that, it's easy to forget what you're creating, and it's easy to forget that it is changing your life. And it was only when we started implementing this that all of a sudden we realized, wow, we've done well. You really need to celebrate, because that motivates you. It keeps you moving forward. It keeps you happy, and it keeps you seeing why you're doing it and what effect it's having on your life, right? So for us, that was huge when we started with that play budget. So 10% of your income should be going to play. Now, this one I think you've been expecting and waiting for me to say. 10% should be going to your investments. So that's 10% you should be putting away every month to invest. Now, why 10%? Well, first off, that was what was taught in The Richest Man in Babylon. If you saw my video where I taught the different, the 5 books I recommend, it's on YouTube, it's here in the Facebook group, it's the 5 books I think all investors should read. I talk about The Richest Man in Babylon, and one of the big lessons there is that you should be putting away 10% to invest, to make an income, to reinvest, and so that the money is working for you instead of the money. That 10% is yours to keep. When we had Kim Kiyosaki here in Sweden as a speaker, when she spoke at our annual Empowered Women event, she shared the same lesson. She said, look, you should be investing 10% of everything you save. T. Harv Eker says the same. So why do you think all these experts are saying the same thing? George S. Clason, T. Harv Eker, Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. Well, because if you can put away 10% of your income to saving, you will start building an income machine if you know how to do it. And that's where that 10% going to education, right, comes in. So you spend 10% learning how to manage the other 10% you invest. Make sense? All right, cool. So now we're up to 95%. And this is where I disagree with T. Harv. T. Harv says you should be putting away the last 5% goes to charity. Now, no, I don't disagree with giving to charity. So I don't know. I'm worried you might have thought that. No, I think you should give 10% to charity. That's why most religions have, you give 10th in Christianity, and most religions give 10% of their income. Robert and Kim talk about 10%. So I think what you should do is make sure to get that 10% up. So you might spend a little less on long-term saving for spending, or even better, obviously, is if you can get your personal expenses down to 50% of your total expenses. So make sure you're giving 10% to charity. Why am I so passionate about giving 10% to charity? First off, I think it's our responsibility. We who have so much have an opportunity to help those who don't. And I think we should take that opportunity and give back to those who need it more than we do. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, honestly, what goes around comes around. We talk about this in our course about Think and Grow Rich for property investors. One of the most powerful lessons I learned from that was that when Henry Ford was taking care of his finance, he actually had his own bookkeeping, which he called his charity bookkeeping. And what he would do is he would compare how much money was he getting every day, or how much, actually not just in money, it's just overall, how much was he getting from the universe and how much was he giving back. And when you look at those and compare those, you get a very powerful result. And you can use that to to really change your life. So 10% giving is so powerful. Now, these lessons, if you do this, if you can put 50 to 55%, if you can cover your living expenses off of that, and you might not be able to do it at once, but you can start working towards it. 10% to long-term saving for spending, so you're putting that away for the larger projects you want to do. 10% on education, 10% on investing, and 10% on charity. If you can do that, your life will never be the same again. It will change forever. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you agree. I hope you see the power of this, and I hope you join us for our future videos and our future shares. So thank you again, and I'll see you soon.